You're listening to Plane Crash, the book by Michael Diamond as retold to the kids of the Watertown SDA Church Junior Sabbath School. This is a story of one man's survival and God's faithful, miraculous rescuing power. Let's go.
This is 5677 Dan calling search base. Leland radioed Betty as they flew back to Fresno. We're on our way home. We'll fly back at dawn to do a visual sighting of the area. Roger, Betty said. Then she called Bruce. The spotter plane picked up the distress signal in your own backyard. Where? Bruce asked, looking at his map. South side of Big Pine Mountain in the Los Padres Wilderness. Just where the other pilot reported it. I see it on the map in front of me. It was 3 o'clock Saturday morning. Bruce sat at his desk alone. If Mike is up there, we should be up there when the spotter plane returns. That way a ground crew can get to him as soon as possible. So Bruce started calling around. You tired of sitting by your radio? He asked Major Lou D'Artaner, the radio operator for the Santa Barbara Civil Air Patrol. Yeah, it's been a long night, she said. What do you have in mind? Let's get our 4x4s out there and try to get as close as possible where the signal has been reported. Well, good idea. I'll call Joe Bird and Ed Delorier. We'll meet at your house, and we better contact forest rangers to open up the gates along the fire roads. As 3 vehicles snaked along the dirt road through the rugged Los Padres wilderness, they came across one lock gate after another. Wally and Elmer, 2 fire rangers, had come along, and they would jump out to open the gate so they could proceed. The route was treacherous. Rock walls towered on one side, cliffs dropped away on the other. They climbed higher and higher into the wilderness in the pre-dawn darkness. I'll see if I can pick up Mike's ELT signals, Bruce said. He rotated the dials on his portable direction finder, which he had invented. Bleep! They all heard it. We're getting close, exclaimed Bruce, maybe 3 to 5 miles away. At daybreak, the search plane from Fresno returned. I see the plane, Leland radioed Salinas. Contact the ground units. I'll circle the wreckage until they can identify it. Roger, Jerry responded from the search base station. Bruce, the search plane is circling the wreckage. Try to identify it. Roger. I think I see the search plane, Bruce said to Lou. He pointed across the valley to the mountain range on the other side. Let's stop here. Climbing out of their jeeps, they pointed their binoculars at the search plane, then scanned the terrain below. Lou was the first to spot the downed plane. There it is, on that patch of bare rock. Then the others spotted it. It looks like a fly clinging to the cliff. Bruce set up a 60-power telescope to get a better look at the wreckage. The plane's numbers on the fuselage were clearly visible. 2499J. It's a missing plane, all right. Bruce radioed Jerry at the Salinas search base. Plane is intact. Very little damage visible. The windshield doesn't even appear broken. There could be a survivor. It was 7:25 in the morning. Jerry, we need a chopper out here. Roger, Bruce. I'll contact Vandenberg Air Force Base. He signaled the base. We need a helicopter to pick up a downed pilot. I'll get a crew together, replied Major Tony Dowd from Detachment 8 Command. Where do you need us? Jerry gave the coordinates. Dowd needed 4 men to make up the helicopter crew, so he awakened Lieutenant Rick McCourt, Pat Miles, as well as Technical Sergeant Ron House. Beaver 32 and its crew, Dowd, McCourt, Miles, and House, left Vandenberg as soon as the morning ground fog lifted. Back in the mountains, the search party bounced on in their jeeps to Bluff Camp, an unmanned fire station. The other jeep stopped behind Bruce. I think this is as close as we're going to get by road, Bruce said. He set up his telescope again. Can you see it from here? Yeah, there she is, sitting pretty high on the canyon wall. How far do you think it is? 3 miles or so from here, Bruce answered. Who wants to go? So Ed, Joe, and Wally, the forest ranger, volunteered. All right, here's a radio. Bruce handed Wally a transceiver. We'll keep in contact with you. Looks like you can follow this trail a little way down through the valley, but sooner or later, you'll probably have to make your own trail through some pretty heavy brush. We'll make it, Wally said. Shortly before 8 a.m., Ed, Joe, and Forest Ranger Wally began hiking toward the plane. The trail was muddy and slippery with patches of snow on it. The first mile was relatively easy, but then they had to leave the trail. They climbed over rocks and crawled under tangled and twisted brush. Much of the way they went on their bellies, squirming and straining for every foot. You know something? Wally remarked. What? Sweat dripped from their faces. I'm a 3-year veteran in this backcountry, but I never had a hike as hard as this one. It took them nearly 2 hours of exhausting struggle just to get close to the crash site. They were tired. Where's the plane? Wally pointed to a spot hundreds of feet above them up in the dead-end canyon. Oh, looks like our work has just started, another said, breathing heavily. He collapsed on a rock. We'll rest here a few minutes, Wally said, then tackle the canyon wall. Little did they know the risk that lay ahead of them. As the night wore on, a different feeling washed over Mike. He could feel his life force flowing out like water from a broken vase. A sense of desolation came on him. Even his pain seemed to vanish. All he felt was thirst. The night got colder and darker, and a coyote howl broke the silence. The howl portended Mike's death song. The cold night was his coffin, the canyon was his grave. But Mike wasn't ready yet to be buried. Like a candle whose flame is gone, leaving only a glow in the wick, Mike hung on. "Lord," he prayed, "I want to see Anne Louise again." Dreamlike pictures of her passed through his mind. His breathing became shallow, he couldn't move, it felt as if his body functions were shutting down. "Lord, don't forsake me," Mike whispered faintly, the cold arms of death wrapped around him. "Everything's a blur. Lord, why is it so dark? Where's my breath?" He slipped into a dream. Suddenly, the sky lit up like noontime on a summer day. Then Mike saw them, army soldiers, thousands of them, marching past him in columns, columns to his left and to his right. They marched from the valley up through the middle of the canyon over the crest. They were dressed in green fatigues, green helmets, backpacks, bayonets on their rifles. Mike was startled by the scene, but he was more startled that none of them stopped to help him. "Help me," he cried, but no one stopped. "Can't you hear me?" Mike asked as they marched by. They looked neither to the left nor to the right. They appeared determined to go into a battle that Mike couldn't see on the other side of the dead-end canyon. "Where's the battle?" Mike wondered. "Why are they leaving me? Can't they see I need help?" Their pace was swift and sure. Each movement of their march was in harmony. Mike saw a great light ahead of them. Another light flowed like a river about their feet. "Help me," Mike cried out again. Still no one seemed to hear. Suddenly he heard a vehicle approaching. It was a jeep. Mike could see two beings in it, the driver and what appeared to be a commander. Mike wasn't sure. The jeep paused. Of the driver, Mike could see only his back, for he didn't turn his head. The driver kept the engine running as the commander jumped out and walked over to Mike. The officer's eyes were like flaming light, his face noble and squared off in appearance. He was dressed in full army uniform. He looked kind as he knelt down toward Mike and removed his helmet. "Sir," Mike said, "I need help." The commander said quietly, "Your help is right behind us." Then he stood up, turned away, and climbed back into his jeep. The driver drove off toward the front of the column. As the sound of the jeep faded away, so did the light, and the foot soldiers faded into the blackness of the night. Mike was awakened by the howl of his old friend the coyote. He looked to see if he could still see anyone around. It was only a dream, he realized. How could I have been so upset by them leaving me? It wasn't real, even though it seemed real. One thing I have to say about those soldiers, Mike thought, they were extremely determined to march into a battle. Was it really a dream? Mike wondered. He felt a new sense of strength. The glow in the wick was flickering back into a flame of life. The night was still dark, though it was getting close to sunrise. Mike tried to sleep, but he couldn't. He turned his head toward the valley beyond the canyon. On the distant mountain, he saw something. Lights flickering. What's that? I'm not dreaming now. The lights were the size of pinheads. Mike did not make the connection between the lights and his dream, but his help was coming from the same direction the marching soldiers had come. The commander was right when he said, "Your help is right behind us." And in the morning, a helicopter would fly from that same direction, for Mike's deliverance was at hand.
You've been listening to Plane Crash by Michael Diamond. If you're enjoying the story so far, tune in for the next chapter. And meanwhile, you can visit my YouTube channel where you'll find stories like these, Bible stories, mission stories, as well as Bible and history skits for kids and adults. See you next time.